My life has not gone as planned. I think I would have thrived had I been born a couple of decades earlier. But those are not the circumstances that I found myself in. I'm not in a very good place right now. I'm starting to question the last couple of years of my life, in particular my relationship with my wife, and an incident that I witnessed. I'll try to give the reader some background context so that they are better equipped to give me advice. When my dad died, he left me a hardware and sporting goods store that once made money but no longer does. COVID further exacerbated trends for small businesses and seems to have only benefited large online retailers. Before my dad died, I more or less ran these businesses by myself and watched the profits move on a downward trajectory. I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree. I regret that. Or at least I think I do. The last couple of years my wife, who acts as lead attorney for a large hospital chain, has been subsidizing the businesses. I'm embarrassed by that. I keep trying to save the businesses and pump money into them, but I'm coming to gradually accept that they might be a lost cause. And if they are, then I'm also a lost cause. Probably the reason I've been keeping them coasting along on life support because of my wife's salary. We live in a decent neighborhood and generally have good lives, but even good lives don't mean you live without doubt. Insecurities, concerns, or problems. The main reason I'm writing this is about 2 years ago a younger couple, a doctor, let's call him Dr. Will, and his wife Heather, who's an accountant, moved in next to us. When Will and Heather moved in next door, they didn't know anyone else or have any ties to the area, so we made an effort to invite them over, and we've become friends ever since. We bonded over our shared characteristics. I'm a little bit older than Will, and I got him into playing golf. He's a very competitive guy. I guess you would have to be to finish medical school. 2 years ago, he was off for golf, and now he's better than me. Both he and my wife run around the same time in the morning, and they're constantly in contact. My wife is a healthcare attorney, and her practice is within walking distance of the hospital. She knows everyone at the hospital that has any kind of power, so she helped Will navigate the waters, tells him the people he could confide in and the people he couldn't trust. As couples, we bonded over being the only 2 couples around us that were childless. Everyone else being older or having children, we could relate easily to them. All that is to say, we've had a very good and close relationship with Will and Heather, even though the 4 of us have all been tight. I felt like the odd man out. I'm the only one that doesn't have a college degree, that isn't physically fit, and the only one in the group that isn't, by objective metrics, successful. That's made me feel insecure, but I don't like talking about these insecurities because when I do, it makes me feel weak and small. Over the last couple of months, these feelings have only worsened. I'll describe for you the series of events that's taken a toll on me, both psychologically and emotionally. It's hard to know with any certainty what constitutes a good sex life between couples. If you look on the internet, which I have, you'll find all kinds of answers ranging from several times a week to several times a month. By those metrics, my sex life with Chloe is unsuccessful. She attributed it to work stress and not being able to get into the mood. If she's not in the mood, I can't think of anything more repulsive than sex out of politeness or pity, because they're both in a certain sense non-consensual, and I don't want that. About 2 months ago, we had some of the greatest spontaneous sex that I can recall during our entire relationship. One night, she walked into the room, didn't say anything, took off her top, pinned me down on the mattress, and wrote me quickly and with an erotic passion. I'd never seen her listed before. I was immediately charged because she's never taken control like this, and she looks so good. She always looks good. Her tiny but strong hourglass-shaped body moved up and down, her large breasts heaved directly into my face. She wanted me to suck on her nipples by them, and then she told me to turn around, put a pillow underneath her stomach, and take her from behind. She wanted me to put all my weight on her and hold her down with her ass out. Usually I take Cialis or some kind of enhancement, but that night I didn't need it. This was the first time I can remember her wanting me, moaning and finishing simultaneously. This was a huge ego boost for me and made me feel better for the next couple weeks. I couldn't quite explain it, and I don't know why it happened, although eventually I did get some ideas about why. And that's when I started to think that I was not the cause of the spontaneous sex between us, which I originally felt was the most perfect experience we'd shared in our relationship. I believe this was about a month ago. I'm not sure, but I do remember the evening very vividly. Will and Heather, as well as some other couples we knew, came over for dinner to celebrate all of us getting vaccinated and being able to get together again for the first time in a long time. The evening was very pleasant. The food was good. The conversation was pleasant, just like the general atmosphere. After the other couples left, Will and Heather stuck around for some drinks and helped us clean up and do the dishes. We were talking in the kitchen when Heather had a light bulb moment and said, "Oh my God. You guys, you're going to love this. Give me 1 second." When she got back, she had what looked like a deck of cards, but the cards had little props on them. It was a game somewhat similar to Truth or Dare, but for adults it was fun and innocuous for a while until my wife dropped a revelation on the party in one of the rounds. My wife chose the truth option. I don't think she would have said this or admitted this had she not been a little drunk. She told the three of us that she had watched Will and Heather having sex underneath the cabana by the pool a couple of weeks back. There was a moment of shock and then loud laughter. It was Heather that said, "Well, I hope we put on a decent show for you." Continuing to laugh, my wife said it was a great show. I didn't realize married couples could find the flair that most people only have in high school. Will said, "Chloe, I didn't know you were such a pervert, you sicko." They stuck around for a bit longer and left a little bit before midnight. After my wife took a shower and washed your face, I told her I wanted to talk about what she said at the party. I asked her out of curiosity, "When did you see Will and Heather having sex? Why didn't you tell me about it?" She rattled off something like it was a couple of weeks back and she told me that I was asleep. Maybe this is true, but I'm pretty sure the night we had the best sex of our lives, it was brought on not by a passion for me, but from her spying on Will and Heather. I was just the body she used to get herself off that night. It's weird to feel used that way. Also, I wasn't sure at that point it could have happened spontaneously, but I know for sure that not. I wasn't asleep when she came into the room. I also found it strange that she didn't tell me about this episode, and I questioned why she blurted out during dinner, but hadn't told me. I started to question everything about my wife's closeness and relationship with Will. I knew that they saw each other often whenever she had to get her car fixed or oil changed. Will would give her a ride home or pick her up for work, since they were both then a mile of each other. And while they didn't work out together, I knew that both of them took long runs around the same time in the morning. She mentioned this to me before. I felt all my confidence deflating. The Truth or Dare game. I started comparing myself to Will and knew there was a huge gap in our attractiveness and general success as individuals. Whereas I'm not physically fit and have unintentionally let myself go over the years, Will is very dedicated to his physical fitness. He measures all of his macros on a weighted scale, and during the summers he does amateur bodybuilding and weightlifting competitions. He's also a very successful oncologist. He deals daily with life and death decisions, making the world better or at least trying to. What am I compared to him? Not a whole lot. I tried to convince myself that the feelings and suspicions that I had concerning my wife and Will were completely unfounded. I would try to find articles that fit my own circumstance answers, and the advice that I got was to purge myself of jealousy or thoughts, or comparing myself to other people, since they would serve no purpose and would be toxic and bring on more stress, and in the end would serve no point. There's a reason people are wary of taking advice from people on the internet. It can never capture the specificity of anyone's relationship or the unique circumstances that they find themselves in. And it turned out all the advice that I'd received about ridding myself of jealousy or fears of cheating was bad advice. There's no good way to tell the next part of what happened, but here it goes. One night I woke up after the motion sensor light in our backyard turned on. I'm a pretty light sleeper, and I've been meaning to uninstall the light because when it flips on, the light shines through the bonds in our bedroom. Now, I'm glad I didn't do that. On the weekends, my wife likes to stay up late, listen to music, sip wine, reading, relax in the jacuzzi. I hate staying up late. I've always been an early riser, so I'm sure she thought I was dead asleep at this point. When I peeked through the bonds I saw while walking through the gate, he was bringing over a couple of pieces of Tupperware I guess Heather had borrowed at some point. I decided I would watch them to see what was going on. I couldn't hear what they said, but at some point in the conversation, my wife must have said something like, "Come join me." I saw him take off his shirt and get into the jacuzzi. They were talking and laughing in a way that we do when we have good moments, and I was a little bit jealous of seeing him have the same effect on her as I do. I kept watching and nothing happened for a bit. Then I saw Will splash some water on her and she did the same. They were playing around like kids. It's hard to say who initiated the kiss because it seemed mutual. He was only wearing shorts and she quickly took them off. She took off her top and started kissing his body, his chest, arms, abs. She seemed really into his strength and muscles, something she's never done with me for obvious reasons. I saw him onto the bottoms of her swimsuit, prop her legs up, spread them, and then Barry's face down there. I don't know if I've seen her face contorted in that way or her eyes light up that way with me before. Well, clearly had a talent that I didn't. It seemed to be a natural ability. They got out of the jacuzzi and I saw her rest the front part of her body against it, while he took her from behind, kissing her neck, slapping her ass, thrusting with the speed and momentum of someone that has complete control over their body. For whatever reason, the images that stuck in my head the most that I don't want to remember is when he picked her up and turned her upside down. I don't know what you would call it. I've seen it done in adult films, but never in real life. I guess the position would be a standing 69, and that's how they both finished each other off him, presumably finishing in her mouth and her swallowing. I was in a complete state of shock about what I'd just witnessed. Part of me wanted to run down there and kick Will's ass, but another part of me just felt inferior and sad. The only thing I could manage was to go lay back in bed and wait for Chloe to come upstairs. When she did, I was in what felt like a complete state of paralysis. The worst part is that Chloe actually kissed me on the head and said goodnight when she thought I was asleep. I didn't confront her, but decided my best option was to tell Will's wife about what I witnessed. The next day, when both Will and Chloe were gone, I went over to their house to speak with Heather about the incident because it was tearing me up when I told her about it. I did not get the response of the kind of support I thought I would get. I told her about what her husband and my wife had done, to my shock and horror. She said, "I know." Well, told me, "I'm okay with it. We don't try to stop each other from being intimate with other people." She asked me, "You're telling me that Chloe never told you about this?" I said, "No." I could tell that she felt bad for me. She realized I was in a different situation from her and Will. I asked her not to say anything to Will or Chloe and that I would work it out on my own. She had a sad look on her face. She told me that she was sorry. Maybe the worst thing of all is that I still love my wife deeply. I'm completely committed to her. I know that she hurt me in a way that I would never do to her, but I don't want to end our relationship. I don't even know what I really want. I don't think that anger would be productive in our relationship. At the same time, these feelings and thoughts have been on my mind every day, all day for a while now. I've also started to take the time to work on myself. I've been using my time to figure out ways that I can improve myself. I don't know whether in the long run it's going to work out, but I want to give it a shot. Maybe the worst feeling of all is the general anxiety I feel, the sense that no matter what, it's not going to work out, regardless of my best intentions and effort. So Harrison, what do you think of the story? Man, tough break for this guy. He seemed very down on his luck at the beginning, but it seemed to only get worse as time went on. And I think he had a good suspicion at the beginning, and he just didn't want to trust his gut. But I think he was just in denial. I think he's probably known something's been going on for a bit. A lot of these stories that we read in our /relationships are cheating seem to prove that most of the advice columns that, tell men to be kind and caring and listen to your spouse aren't actually very true in real life. And it seems like the beefcake guys always win. Yeah, and definitely in this case, the doctor seemed to be pulling some moves that guy had never even thought about trying. Probably due to his fear of straining his back. Now, question Harrison, or do you have the upper body strength? I would say I could probably maintain that position for 30 seconds maybe. I think if he does confront his wife about this, she should just say, "Look, this was just an exercise routine that we learned at the gym. This is a part of our yoga class that we have done together and it's called a static hold, right? There's nothing sexual about it. It just really, yeah, okay, Jack. Well, you want to go ahead and get out of here. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, everyone, usual reminders. Please check out our Patreon. We have some new stuff that's going to be going up there. And please check out our podcast, which is available on all major platforms.